Welcome back to HiFi Lo-Fi. I thought I'd make a personal appearance in this one because last time, indeed, some of my videos I don't appear and they seem rather impersonal. So today I'll give you an overview of my Onkyo Intec 275 series. Now, I've already made some videos on some of these components and you can go back and watch those videos. The details of some of those components are in those videos, so please go back and have a look. Today's more of an overview with a slight focus on the cassette decks. Two cassette decks to show you. And without further ado, let's get on with it. I have several Intec 275 series components and I'm focused now on screen on three of those. The three you can see on the screen are from the later generation. There are two generations of Intec 275 and the later generation which you're looking at was introduced in 2005. On the left upper side is the HiMD 133, which was introduced in 2005 on the 25th of April 2005. Now that is according to Onkyo Japan's website. If you look up that same machine on minidisc.org, it gives a date of January 2005. Now obviously I'm going with the Onkyo Japan website because I would imagine that's more accurate. So below that you've got the CD player, which is model C733. That was introduced on the 9th of March 2005. And next to that, on the right there, is the amplifier. The amplifier model is the A933, also introduced on the 9th of March 2005. Now if I pan over to the other side, you can see the other three Onkyo Intec 275 components that I have, and those three are from the first generation of the Intec 275 series. Now there are two generations, as I said. You just saw the later 2005 generation. What you're looking at is the first generation. Now the dates are slightly different because they did modify and bring out slightly new models, but as far as I can tell from the Onkyo Japan website, the first generation of the Intec 275 series was introduced in 1994, and what you can see there on the far right side is a twin cassette deck which I've never opened. I bought it in a chain of a very popular chain of used goods. What's the name? It's Hardoff, the very amusingly named Hardoff, which is part of the Bookoff chain. If you've ever been to Japan, you'll have definitely noticed it. It's everywhere. I have never unwrapped it. It's still in the plastic wrapper that they put on in the store, and I'm probably never going to use it. I'm thinking about selling it, so look out for that, because I think I'll set up an online shop, maybe an eBay shop, and sell some of these items, because although I'd really like to use it and try it out, I don't think I'll ever make use of it. Now on the left of the picture, on the upper side, you've got the tuner. The tuner model is T422M, that's M for Mike. According to the information I can find, it was introduced in June 1996. There was most likely an earlier model that was introduced before that. And below that is the star of the show. It's an absolutely fantastic cassette deck. Model number K-511THM. That's Tango Hotel Mike. Introduced in 1994. And oh, by the way, the twin cassette deck next to it was also introduced in 1994. And the model number for the twin cassette deck is K-W511M, M for Mike. Now, the W in Japan is nearly always used to signify a twin deck, and the reasoning, the logic behind it is because in Japan they pronounce W as a double, just pronounce it as double, so it's a double cassette deck, you know, a twin cassette deck. One obvious thing that you can now see is the colour difference. So the older generation is a very slight, I don't know if you can see it in this light, certainly looking on my aging iPad Air 2 screen as I film this, the colour is not really shown as I see it with my eyes. So the colour of the first generation is a very slight gold metallic, perhaps bronze, a bronze or a gold metallic, whereas the later generation is very clearly a silver metallic. And also, one thing you can see, if I put it there, you can see side by side, is that the older generation is slightly more rounded. It's got like beveled edges on it, whereas the newer generation is very slightly more angular. And another obvious difference is that the later generation uses the blue display, the blue LED display, and the older generation has that yellow and, in fact, more than what, you know, yellow and red. So, but its main colour is the yellow for the displayed information. And as I said, if you go back and look at some of my old, you can find some of these on the older videos. I go into more detail, but perhaps this is the first time I've actually shown you with them switched on. I can't remember. The amp does not have any display, but it does have blue LEDs to indicate the input selection, and that's of the two large knobs on the amp. The one on the left is the input selector, and there is a flap that it's all getting rather open to innuendo, but anyway, there's a flap, there we are, that drops down with more controls. They definitely have all those three devices all have remote controls. Those devices, I can't remember whether they have remote controls. I'm not a big fan of remote controls. The only time I use them is because some of the functions sometimes are not on certainly later components. Some functions are not on the machine itself. You can only access them via a remote control. I can't remember. I've got remote controls for some of these, but I just never use them. And what else can I tell you? Well, right, I know what I was going to tell you. I'm going to tell you about the cassette deck. Now, I absolutely love that cassette deck. It is absolutely fantastic. I have other very expensive cassette decks, which you can also see in some of my previous videos. And that cassette deck is probably, it's definitely the one I use the most. And it's a 3-head, as I said before. You know, we like head, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's if I give you the statistics for that, So according to a Japanese website called Audio Heritage, which is very good at archiving, documenting audio equipment, and recommend it. It's called Audio Heritage, but it is all in Japanese. So anyway, I can tell you what it says. The wow and flutter figure for that cassette deck is given at 0.045%. That's 0.045%. Now, that is an incredibly low figure. I don't have any specialist equipment to measure these things, and frankly, the only specialist equipment I feel I need are my ears. If I can't detect something wrong with my ears, then as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with it. So I can tell you that that cassette deck sounds absolutely steady as a rock. It is rock solid. It is perfect in every shape and form. Also worth noting that that cassette deck, I don't know if you can see it, probably not clear on the video, but go back and have a look at the video where I unbox it. But it's got Dolby B, Dolby C, HX Pro, and it can handle Type 1, Type 2 and Type 4. So it gives a figure of a frequency response of 20 Hertz up to 19 kilohertz. Now the 19 kilohertz figure is quoted as metal tape. It doesn't say what the frequency response is for Type 2 and Type 1. I use mostly, I have got, as you know, I have got Type 4 metal tapes, but I nearly always use, I prefer Type 2 personally. I use a lot of Type 2. Obviously one reason is that Type 4 are very expensive, and I get the best sound out of Type 2 for the, you know, cost performance, if you like, the value for money. So, but having said that, I have definitely used Type 1 cassette tapes on that deck, and they sound absolutely fine. And although I'm 50 years old, and a lot of people of my, when we get to this age, our hearing may not be the best, but I am pretty sensitive still. My hearing is pretty good, and I definitely hear a good frequency range from that cassette deck. It is very impressive. So I'm not trying to sell it to you because I'm keeping it. It's a keeper. It's so good that I will keep it for forever if possible. And so I said it's got 3 heads, and it's also listed on this site as having 3 motors. How about that? So that is a very impressively spec'd deck. The twin deck next to it has got a quoted figure of wow and flutter as 0.07%. That's 0.07%, which is also very impressive. I haven't tried it, but going by the deck I am using, the single deck, I will definitely trust it to be a very good deck. That deck is not as high tech. It's not as high end in terms of that it has 2 heads. In fact, on the twin deck, the left side is playback only and the right side is play and record. It's got quoted frequency responses as 20 Hertz to 17 kilohertz, and the 17 kilohertz is listed as metal tape. And yeah, that's it. I haven't used it, so I can't comment any further, but I would trust it to be a good deck, that's for sure. This has been Hi-Fi Lo-Fi. Thanks for watching.